Good afternoon, everybody out there in Viewerland, and welcome to the Wednesday edition, the Hump Day edition of the Rundown. We're glad that you could join us middle of the week. Great news, great exciting news for you. My name is Mike Piwowarski. I am your host, but I do not do this program by myself.
So what's the exciting news? Is it that you're the host or that you don't do it by yourself?
I'm the host.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'm the host.
Well,
Yeah.
I am your co-host today. My name is Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the left coastest with not so much the mostest, unless we're talking about left-wing politics. But once again, my name is Craig DeLuz, and I will be your co-host for today on this Hump Day version of the Rundown.
The co-hostess with the mostest from the left coastest. There you go. Just like that. That's exciting news in itself.
Yep.
That,
A lot of our towns are burnt like toastest.
See, now, if you were dealing with East Coast politics, they'd have broken your leg by now. But it's California. They're like, "Come on, man, stop talking bad about us."
I know. Well, you have to understand that insulting them is actually considered a form of violence.
That's true.
So I'm a violent individial, just so you know. Don't mess with me, homie.
Your words hurt, man. It hurts.
Those are those are some hurtful words, man. Just saying.
I get to rub some avocado in it now. Whatever they do to make themselves feel better out there.
No, and beating someone up with facts, well, that's actually a felony in California. So
true. You can't come at them with the facts like that. You can't do that at all. Well, how was your day? How did you celebrate Cuomo Resignation Day yesterday?
You know, my wife came home. She was visiting her sister in Seattle, so I celebrated with the little woman.
With the what?
The little woman.
Oh, the little woman.
Mm-hmm.
Is that somebody different than the wife, or is that the same woman?
Oh. My wife is the little woman.
Your wife is the little woman. Okay.
Yes.
No, I'm just curious. Listen, we had a guy at work who used to call his mother the old lady. And we finally, it took us about 6 months to realize he was talking about his mother. We were like, dude, do you know what old lady is supposed to reference? He's like, my mom. No, not at all.
No,
that explains so much,
that's not how this works. It's not how any of this works.
He's like, I got to go home. The old lady's got dinner waiting for me. And we were like, man, wish my old lady had dinner waiting for me. And then come to find out it was his mother. So, yeah, exactly. Especially with the other stuff he said they were doing together. So, they'd go for walks and watch movies and just kind of craziness, but special relationship, I guess. All right, let's move on. Let's move on. We should talk about some actual 2A views and conservative news. Is that right? Did I say that right? Yeah, 2A views and conservative news. We want to talk to you about our good friend. We were gonna hit this yesterday, ran out of time, and we want to make sure we had enough time to talk about this. So, Mike Rowe, and for those that know who Mike Rowe is, he was the host of Dirty Jobs. Used to be on one of the cable networks. I don't know, AMC, Discovery, something like that. And it was a couple seasons long where he just went out and did these stinky jobs, these really hard labor jobs that other people don't do. And he would show you what happened. And Craig, are you familiar with the program? You ever seen this program?
You know, Mike, I never watched the program. I honestly did not know who Mike Rowe was until they kept bringing him up on conservative, news every time he said something conservative. I had no idea who dude was. Never watched the show. In terms of jobs, what was it called again?
Dirty Jobs.
Dirty
Mike
Jobs.
Rowe.
Yeah. I did structural steel for 3 years. Right. Got involved in a structural steel company, and I learned something. I went to college so that I did not have to do manual labor. And I have mad respect for people who use their hands to make a living. Total respect. But I believe that certain people, everybody has a calling. And my calling does not involve working, doing physical labor. Me and manual do not get along. I have attempted to have manual deported. No, me and manual labor do not get along.
That's. I thought he was the president of Mexico. Manual labor. Is that not right? Is that wrong? Is that wrong?
That would be a manual labor movement.
Oh, the manual labor. There we go. Yeah, so Mike did this. It's a great show, Craig. You ought to check it out. I'm sure it's available on the reruns or the on-demand, whatever it is.
If you recommend it, then I got to check it out now.
I listen. It's a guy with our point of view and our kind of humor, and who's watching people do dirty jobs, and having fun with it. And he pays great tribute to all of them too for the work they do, so we don't have to do that kind of work. So it's really good. But and he didn't really come out with anything political while he was doing the show, and it wasn't until after the show was over that he's become kind of a conservative, front man. I know at the SHOT Show, the Shooting Hunting Outdoor Trade Show, he's been the honored speaker there once or twice, also for the additional speaking events. So a great person. But listen, he's got all the social media stuff, and he puts out, maybe once a month he puts out something from Mike Rowe. He puts out words from Mike Rowe or something along those lines, and it's usually in response to something that someone else has said. Well, this all started now with the vaccinations, his latest piece, and Mike went on to explain that, listen, the vaccinations, the reason people are not getting vaccinations is not because they're trying to, fight the government or refuse to do so, or it's a political stance. It's mostly because they don't trust our government. It's just the whole liberal side of the argument, the liberal side of the party, from the Clintons all the way to what we have today, through the Obamas to what we have today, is you don't trust them. How can you trust the likes of a Biden who doesn't know where he is half the time, Kamala Harris, Cory Bush yesterday, you got AOC earlier in this week, talking incredible amounts of just patented lies, absolute lies. They don't trust the government, so therefore they're not getting the vaccine because it's being pushed by the government. It's that simple.
Well, Mike, and you bring up a very interesting point, and that's the real point. Now, by the way, they came out, and who is it that actually wound up criticizing? Oh, it's Vox. Was it Vox? Yeah, so Vox came out, and they're hitting him hard on this. And the reality is, or was it the Washington Post?
It's the Washington. It was Vox, but Washington Examiner did the story about Vox talking about Mike Rowe.
Okay, good. Okay,
so and the author's name there is the last name of the author at Vox is last.
Right. Yeah, so the issue, quite frankly, here is that he wasn't talking about vaccines. First of all, they called him anti-vaccination, and in the piece that he wrote, he pointed out, number one, vaccines have saved millions of lives. And by the way, when this vaccine came out, he got it as soon as he was eligible. So he's not anti-vaccine. The point that he was making is that, you have a mainstream media which lies, and they lie. They clearly, just by the way in which they've portrayed his commentary, is a lie. But then you have a government that flat out puts out misinformation, says the exact opposite within a week or within a day of each other. And then you wonder why they don't trust you when it comes to injecting something into their body, because they don't trust you. And guess what? You've earned that distrust. And all he's saying is that if you want people to listen to what you have to say, stop thinking that you have to tell them what they want to hear and start telling them the truth, what they need to hear. And that's really about it. It's about the problem here is the lack of trust in government. And all they're doing is adding to that distrust.
Yeah, it continuous, Craig. No matter what piece of fact comes out, it's always, like you said, within days, maybe sometimes a week, sometimes a year later, like we have now, we found out it's not the truth. We have Dr. Fakey admitting he lied because he wanted us to do something that nobody else wanted us to do, so he lied about it.
Right.
So how do you trust that? You don't, and that's what Mike called them on. And this author, this person named Last from Vox, went after him. Now, I want to jump on the author here over in the Washington Examiner. This is what they said. They said, yes. Now, this person is agreeing with Mike Rowe, and then agreeing with the author that attacked Mike Rowe by not agreeing with the facts. And then you're just going to love the way this piece ends, Craig. It says, yes, the original coronavirus projections were completely wrong. Okay. Like Mike Rowe said. Yes, the government's lockdown efforts did a lot more harm than good, like Mike Rowe said, and continued imposition of restrictions have gotten out of control, as Mike Rowe said. And yes, many of our officials were dishonest and hypocritical, like Mike Rowe said. All of those complaints are true and justified. But consider this. The vast majority of people who are in the hospital right now with the coronavirus are unvaccinated. The people most likely to end up with long-term symptoms are the unvaccinated. You don't need to pay attention to Fauci anymore because those numbers speak for themselves. And he does this author says this, Craig, without any support, without any facts, without any citation noted whatsoever. He says that the vast majority are in the hospital right now that are unvaccinated. Well, that's not true. And you and I have talked about this several times.
Actually, that is true, but he's never denied. My point is, Mike Rowe has never denied any of that. He's never said any of those. That's when you talk about no substantiation, they're putting arguments in Mike Rowe's mouth that he never made. Remember, the piece was all about this is why people who aren't taking the vaccine aren't taking the vaccine.
And I'll say this, Craig. I know you said that you believe it's true. I say I believe it's not true because, again, I look at those daily rates every day of people's in the hospital, and what they refuse to cover is who has the vaccine, the severity of the illness, the non-severity of the illness, the positive rates for one for the other. And I'll just say that those numbers are convoluted, so I can't say that's true or not.
Well, here's where I will disagree with you, but I will also say that you are in part right. What they're saying when they talk about the overwhelming majority of people who are in the hospital are people who are unvaccinated, what they're not telling you is how few people are actually in the hospital.
Correct.
It's not like in most areas there's this overwhelming surge of people who are going into the hospital. In fact, it's still significantly lower than it ever was during any of the peaks during COVID.
The people that are surging to the hospital now, Craig, remember when this first started a year ago and they came up with testing sites? And if people that were sitting at home isolated for a month, and then they found out there were testing sites and they flooded the testing sites. No symptoms, no exposure, no nothing. Those people flooded the testing sites. So those people that are actually sick couldn't get tested. Now, those are the same people that showed up for the first vaccinations. They got the first vaccinations, Craig, and they got the vaccinations. You know what they continue to do now? Follow Fauci's advice. They went outside, did wear the mask, didn't wear the mask, and then they got the virus. You know how they know they got the virus? Because they were asymptomatic and they went back to the testing site at least once a week to see if they had it. And now that they got their positive, guess where they ended up, Craig? They're in the hospital. They go to the I have the COVID virus. And what are your symptoms? Oh, none. I just got a positive test result.
But that's not what they're referring to when they talk about hospitalizations.
That's exactly what they're referring to.
So you're saying that when they talk about people who are in the hospital, who are winding up at ICU and who are dying, they're talking about people who are asymptomatic.
Didn't say anything about
who
ICU
got the vaccine.
Because you and I just said this. You and I just agreed that you don't know the number of ICU numbers because
you said that. I didn't say I agreed. You said that. I didn't say I agreed.
I know the number of ICU beds available, and they're not changing. What's changing is those going to the hospital with
but Mike, I don't disagree with any of that. The point that I'm making to you though is that's not what they are saying. What they're not saying that there's a whole bunch more people in the hospital. What they're saying is the overwhelming percentage of people who are being hospitalized are unvaccinated. What I'm saying is the numbers aren't going up. That's my point. It's not like there's this big surge of unvaccinated people who are now in the hospital. It's just that, in other words, we're not seeing a huge surge in the number of hospitalizations.
Let me go on to what the rest of this author said there.
Right.
The people most likely to end up with long-term symptoms are the unvaccinated. There is no scientific proof of that at all. Nothing. This is the author complaining that Mike Rowe is saying things. The author complaining and agreeing with this other author says that Mike Rowe's wrong, and then goes on to make claims that are unsubstantiated.
Well, and you are 100%.
Have you heard anything about long-term symptoms?
You are 100% correct on that. You are 100% correct on that. It will help for short-term symptoms, being symptomatic should you get it, but no, there is no evidence that has been offered by anyone, quite frankly, that it helps address the long-term effects of COVID-19, as well as there's not significant evidence to show that there are no long-term effects of COVID of the COVID vaccine, because quite frankly, it just hasn't been around long enough for that to have been fully studied.
Right.
Which is, by the way, why it's not fully approved yet.
I was watching Robin Mead this morning, and she was talking about those that have some long-term effects, like brain fog and a certain laissez-faire, attitude. And I said, I think that's more tied to the government support checks coming in from the federal government and the local government. where you get enough
Well,
checks coming in, you're just going to sit on your couch and go,
so in other words, what you're saying is that if you get the COVID, one of the potential long-term effects is that you might become a Democrat. I mean, is that not the definition of brain fog?
that's exactly right. Listen, we're going to give you a check to sit on the couch.
This is a
Sold.
Democrat virus,
Sold.
folks. It's
Yeah.
be careful.
Sold.
Be careful. Don't get that Rona. You might start voting Democrat.
You get the Ronocrat. You got
The Ronocrats. That's what they're called. That's what the new surge of Democrats are going to. Registered Democrats are going to be the Ronocrats.
That's it. It's the Ronocrats. The Ronocrats. You're going to get the liberal variant of it. So, all right, let's roll right along here. People that we talk about frequently on the show are Senator Rand Paul, which is, by the way, his real name's Randall. He just doesn't go by Randall. I want you to think everybody's like, Rand. That's such a weird name. That's short for Randall. It's a regular name. Leave the guy alone. He goes by Rand. Rand Paul, and then your girl, Craig, MJT, or MGT, Marjorie Green Taylor. She, the two of them got a little backhanded treatment from the social media giants again this week.
Right, and this is the problem with this whole thing is that you can't even really have a conversation and that can't even share information or facts that are against what the mainstream wants you to believe. And here you had a specific case where first you had Marjorie Taylor Greene, who simply said that, look, this vaccine should not be approved. There are some problems with it, yada, 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 and basically just mentioned some of the issues that exist with the vaccine. And they basically banned her for a week or for 12 days. They banned her from Twitter because she made those comments. And then you had the instance with Rand Paul. What was it exactly again that Rand Paul had to say about the vaccines again, or about masks?
Well, again,
it's about masks.
It's his masks and the fight with Fauci again. So.
Right. And he basically pointed out that problems with masks. Now, once again, this is a medical professional. Now, granted, he's not a virologist or an epidemiologist, but he, as a medical professional, he is experienced and understands how to read medical studies and stuff like that. So he's not
board certified practicing medical doctor and surgeon.
Exactly.
That's what he is.
Right. So he knows how to read medical journals. He knows how to study and research all of that. And he's just pointed out, look, there's problems with a lot of the stuff that they are saying. And this is all stuff that, quite frankly, is verified and has been tested. It's all stuff that has been demonstrated within studies that are out there. That, by the way, done by the CDC in many cases, done by NIH, but their own studies, their own science that they're ignoring. And because he put some comments out about that on the YouTube video, YouTube has suspended him for a week. And I'm like, here the thing that frustrates me is it's not like these are people who are just out there lying. These are people who are sharing information that is different than what the mainstream wants you to believe, the mainstream media, or what liberals want you to believe, and therefore they must be silenced. Folks, here's the thing, and this has just got to be real. Science is not as definite as people want you to believe it is. In many cases, there are areas of science that can be contradictory, especially when you start doing, you got this research study says this research study says this. Well, then the media wants you to dictate to us who we're supposed to believe. And the fact is that when you silence people who give an opinion or express a position that is supported by fact and studies and science that you disagree with, when you silence them, well, then once again, you feed into that whole distrust of the system that we talked about earlier.
Greg, when children in the 50s would get hair lice at school, and this would happen, more frequent than not. And if everybody remember grade school, kids would get hair lice. You'd get it. Do you know how they would treat it in schools? Do you know how they would treat it? And I've got some pictures of this also.
DDT.
Remember this story? They used to bring them in with the big pump like on the Bugs Bunny cartoon, and they'd spray them with the DDT. Hey kid, bend over, go put your fingers through your hair, and they'd spray them with the DDT because that was with the best science.
I know you got my hair itching.
Said at the time, let's spray the kids right in the face with the DDT, and I'm sure that'll be fine. So, best scientific minds available, Craig. So, and that's in our lifetime that
Right.
occurred. So,
Science, quite frankly, is only as good as the technology of the day.
you know what? I'd even go beyond that. It's of the intelligence of the day. Just because we have the technology doesn't mean they can read
True.
it right. Also, I think
True,
it's a
true.
combination of the two.
But think about all those. But even getting away from that, think about all the things that we now know that were true, that they silenced, and now we know are true. Not just in dealing with COVID. Dare I say, Hunter Biden's laptop?
Oh,
I mean, all the stuff we know out there that's true. The fact that, let's see, he worked for China. He's worked. I mean, the fact that we know that on that laptop there is evidence that Biden met with foreign nationals in order to help advance his son's business, and they social media, big tech, flat out silenced that story. I think if that story had been out, there would have been a decent chance that Biden would not have won the presidency.
Wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
That's what he said. Wasn't me.
Wasn't me.
But I saw you butt naked on the floor.
Wasn't me.
I can't believe I left her a key.
Wasn't me.
All right. Yeah. Listen. It's to see in a nation like we are, where the First Amendment exists. That was the main reason, the oppression by our own government of our words and our opinions and our voice, and to have two people in the government suppressed for having their voice, not agree with the social media and with the current administration, is just absolute. All right, I don't know if we need to pick up arms and go, but we need to definitely pick up boxing gloves and go smack some people around over at the Twitters and the YouTube Central, because that's some crap right there. That's some crap. This is not a private company anymore. Sure, it might be privately owned, but this is the town square now.
I think that eventually you're going to start to see some sort of conversation when Republicans take over both houses of Congress. I think you're going to start to see some sort of conversations, because I don't know how you allow this to continue. And literally, this is censorship. This is them dictating and controlling the message. And you're right. You're 100% right, Mike. This is the new town square. The internet is the new town square. And in many cases, it was developed with the funding and the support of taxpayers. And it's going to be time for us to take it back. Honestly, it's going to be time for us to put some controls on what can be controlled in terms of what's out there on the internet and what these tech giants are able to do, because they are now affecting policy, and we're seeing all sorts of madness take place because, quite frankly, they're putting their thumbs on the scale.
Folks, I don't want you to think this went from the town square of 1776 to the internet like that did. This applied to newspapers in the day. This applied to magazines. This applied to radio. This applies to television today. That if you air, media ads, if you air political ads from one party, you must allow airtime to the opposing party. That's what it means to be regulated and in the town square, is that both sides must be heard. You cannot censor one side. Yet that's what's going on, because evidently the Twitters and the YouTubes are internet based, and it does not apply to them. We're going to see that change, and you're going to see some people get punched in the face, figuratively, when it happens.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, got a nice knuckle sandwich for him. So, all right, let's move on to some more COVID hypocrisy, because we can't get enough of it. We have, I think we have a picture here, Craig. Don't we have a picture? We have a picture.
I'm working on it right now. Go ahead and introduce it, and I will have it up there.
We have a U.S. Representative Rashid Tlaib. Is that how we say it? Isn't she a member of the Squad? I believe she's a Squad member also.
She is a member of the Squad.
She's one of the Squad people, and I just want to laugh every time I hear that. The Squad, where maybe they play badminton together. They got a little team or something, and they go to the gym and they swat at the shuttlecock. Maybe that's what the Squad they're on is. So she's up there all the time. She's talking about the coronavirus. It's the death. Take the vaccine. You must wear the mask. Otherwise, you too shall perish. And you're killing my children. You don't have the vaccine and you don't wear the mask. You're killing my family members because you're selfish. And I'm going to shame you. And here she is out partying with.
Look, do you see
looks like a
do you see
wedding.
the child in the background? She's killing a
Yep.
child.
She's killing him. She's killing him, probably with a little bit of the armpit odor there. But well, I'm not going to make the rest of the stereotypes. I'll just leave it alone. But I've been overseas. Woo! That's not a smelly people. That's not a good smelling people. You have the is on the left there. Is that the brother she's marrying, or the brother that she was married to and just going to another wedding with?
I have no idea, but we are
right.
definitely going to be sending you to cultural sensitivity training after this episode.
Listen, I fully anticipate you to start censoring me and pulling me off the air because although you are conservative, you are in California and there are laws to follow. So might have to go away for a day or two. Come back with a electroshock therapy marks on my stomach.
Come back and be like, you can start using words like equity.
Yeah. Actually saying Gavin Newsom without saying Mussolini.
Well,
So.
The whole point about that thing is this: you know what? At this point, like I said, supposedly all these people have gotten the vaccine, well, except for the kid, because if he's under 12. But even then, they're safe. The fact is they're following the science. And what makes me angry is that while they are following the science in their own personal life, because they're sophisticated enough to follow the science, they don't believe that the rest of us are able to look at the numbers and follow the science ourselves, right? Once again, if you're young and healthy, there's a lot less likely chance that you really need to be messing with the vaccine. If you're young, healthy, no pre-existing conditions. And that's the decision that many people are making. And guess what? It's not just Republicans, folks. There are a lot of people who are of various different ethnicities, various different genders or gender identities, who are of a certain age, who are like, yeah, they're following the science. I just spoke to a young lady who went to Miami Beach, right?
Right.
And needless to say, came back tested positive for COVID. A bunch of people tested positive for COVID. They had the sniffles for a day or two, and they were done. That was it. Guess what?
Yeah.
They were following the science.
Yep. Yeah, how many times a month do you say you might get a little case of the sniffles, Craig?
Oh, I honestly almost never do. I haven't had a cold in I don't know how long.
So you're like me. I'm one of those never get sick peoples. But when everybody else gets deathly sick around me, I might get that. I mean, like really, really bad. I might get that little one sniffle, and a glass of orange juice cures all my ails.
Well,
that's just
to me, when I start to feel like that, it's a sign that, okay, I need rest. So I rest. I get the extra orange juice, extra vitamin C. But here was the other thing. I used to say, oh man, I get sick every year. I get an ear infection every year, and every year I spoke it into existence. You have no idea how much the mind and the body work together. I just stopped saying that.
Yeah. I also stopped taking the flu vaccine 25 years ago and haven't been sick since then either. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or not.
I've only taken the flu vaccine one time in my entire life, and I didn't get the flu. But then again, I didn't get the flu when I didn't get the flu vaccine.
Well, it's not about if you get the flu vaccine, Craig. It's if everybody else around you gets the flu vaccine to keep you from getting the flu.
Exactly. Well, that must be what it is. Everyone around me got the flu vaccine, so I didn't get the flu.
There you go. And you still put them.
Although they did.
Selfishness.
Look, Mikey. Although they did get the flu.
Well, that's because you didn't get the vaccine. You did. You caused that. That's dumb.
It was all my fault. I was asymptomatic.
Yes. Yeah. Very true. Very true. All right. Let's see. We're running up on time here. Let's get to this next one. A group of police officers in Los Angeles. They were the victim of of a shooting. The victim of a shooting. It's a year and a half ago, I believe it was. And thankfully, officers, all alive, recovered, are recovering as well. These are people that put their lives on the line every day, all day. We're seeing cops ambushed at home now because they've got the nerve and the fortitude to stand up for those that cannot and provide law enforcement to the country. So city, county, state, local, whatever it happens to be. So if there's 100% of respect to go to these officers, I'd give them 110. It's above and beyond everything that they do. Well, evidently they must have got themselves one of them California lawyers out there, Craig, because they have decided to sue the Polymer 80 company because one of the firearms that was used to shoot at these officers was a gun that was made from a kit. Craig, you're familiar with these kit guns, correct? I believe they.
Yes,
they
I
have
am.
They have a catchy term. I can't remember what it is. It's because it's not real and it doesn't mean anything. But what do they call them again? Oh, they call
Phantom
them
firearms.
Yeah, phantom firearms. There you go. When you're asleep at night, they fly through your room and yell "boo!"
Boogity boogity.
boogity boogity. Yeah, and they go away. Yeah, they're ghost guns. Folks, there's you just get rid of this language right here, right now. You're allowed to own a firearm without a serial number on it. Allowed to make a firearm. You've been allowed to do that since 1776. You've been allowed to do that. It's still illegal to be a felon and possess a firearm, whether it has a serial number or not. That has not changed. Okay, let's be clear on that. If you were not allowed to have a firearm with a serial number on it, you're not allowed to have a firearm without a serial number on it. Okay, absolutely not. Well, they're not traceable. Well, guess what? My guns are not traceable either, Craig, because I don't have a registration in my state. So stick it. Okay, if I buy my firearm from a licensed dealer, that dealer knows the serial number, and if my gun ever turns up at a crime scene and the police want to know where it came from, they go back to the original manufacturer, go back to the dealer and see who he sold it to. Guess what I'm allowed to do with my firearm, though, Craig? I don't know. Say I've had it a couple of years. I don't like it anymore. I can sell it to you. I could sell it to somebody else. And am I required to keep records? Absolutely not. Do I? Yeah, because when the people come to my door, I want to be able to tell them I don't have it. But what if somebody stole it from me? All right. They stole it from me. I'm not responsible to maintain the record of who has it because guess what? It's freaking stolen. All right. It's illegal to steal a gun. It's illegal to shoot a cop with the gun. It doesn't matter if there's a serial number on it or not. These cops going after the guy who made these guns 5 steps back and sold them legally is akin to going after the Ford Motor Company because the bad guy drove to the scene in a Ford. It's that simple.
Exactly. And the thing they won't tell you is law enforcement won't tell you, how many crimes are solved by tracing firearms. Guess what? Almost none. Literally, when I say almost none, I mean almost zero crimes. It's not about tracing guns. It's about they want to know who has what firearms, so that when the time comes that the government decides they want to come get them, they know exactly where to go. And that's what it's all about. Every place in every civilization where you have had firearm registration, you have eventually had confiscation. And that's the reason why people oppose the idea of firearm registration. Mike, the fact is these guys would have, you keep in mind, you said one of the firearms used.
Yes.
Well, that means that there was a firearm that had a serial number that magically was not prevented from being able to use to shoot at them.
But Craig, it had a serial number on it.
I know. So the serial number, along with the whole, I'm sure it was probably in a gun-free zone, the talisman of the gun-free zone sign or, all of that was supposed to have stopped it and it didn't. It is literally just out of ignorance that they're doing this. But in the end, once again, these are cops that are probably being spurred on by their unions to file these lawsuits in order to go after. And by the way, let me just say this. Most people out there, most regular people out there would know nothing about about ghost guns, about firearm kits or anything like that. By the way, which have been in existence for years, for decades, right?
You could make it. Listen, this is how you made your firearm,
right?
Back in the day,
right?
When you wanted a black powder or you wanted a gun like they had in 1776, you either went down to the gunsmith and got one,
right,
or you gave him money and Pony Express brought you one. 50 years later.
The only reason that most criminals know these exist is because y'all keep talking it up. You literally keep promoting them. Yeah. It is astonishing to me because those who are involved in firearms or gun culture, they've always known that they existed. And most people, quite frankly, in gun culture choose not to do it because they don't want to build their own firearm. They just want to go. They want one that's built by something, they want that's already built by somebody, right? It is idiotic. It's like you guys are perpetuating or creating a problem Well, because you said it was a problem, so therefore they want to be right. So they're going to keep promoting it and keep pushing it until the criminals are like, I sainted it on TV that I could go make me one of them dark ghost guns.
That's right. That's right. And they forget to tell you that if you can't own a regular gun, you can't own a ghost gun. So they think it's got no serial number. It must not be a firearm. I can go out and make myself one, even though I'm a 3-time convicted whatever. You can't do that. So
the minute you
listen,
do,
best of luck.
the minute you do the right, the minute you do the things that need to be done to it in order for it to be made into a firearm, it is now a firearm. And therefore, if you are not allowed to possess it, you're still firearm. You're still not allowed to possess this firearm without a serial number.
Yep, exactly right. Listen, best of luck to those officers in their recovery, both mental and physical. I would just say that it's time to recognize what the real threat is, and it's not the tool; it's the evil out there in the people that exist.
Yeah, why don't you sue the people who are out there promoting things like pigs in a blanket, fire, cook them like bacon? I want you to go after and sue them. They're the ones that are pushing the rhetoric that are leading people to do stuff like this.
Well, it's going to be Craig. What they need to be looking at is letting these people out of jail without bail, without bond. Failing to put them away when they need to go away.
Oh, you mean being smart on crime?
Yes. Yeah. So that's what's going on, and that's what they need to be enforcing, and they're not.
I completely agree. Because you're telling people, we can commit whatever crime we want, and we don't have to. We're never going to be punished for it.
All right, let's skip to the last one here. This one's just an update we want to give you. Do you recall, Craig, we talked about the leader of the BLM unit out there in Utah making comments that if I see a red, white, and blue flag, I know it's going to be somebody. It's going to be a white hate, a symbol of white hate, and they're coming for me because I happen to be black. Do you remember this story?
Yes, the red, white, and blue flag, the American flag represents racism, and every time they see it, when they see it flying somewhere, they know that it's a sign of oppression. And this individual has supposedly received death threats.
She got the death threats. She got like Corey Bush. She got the death threats, and evidently the death threats are too much for her. I had her name written down, trying to find it. Lex Scott. Scott. She was also the president of the Utah Black History Museum. She resigned as the BLM Utah chapter president there over the comments she made. So
I'm going to guess that I'm going to guess that a black history museum in Utah is pretty darn small.
I mean, there are black people in Utah. They're just statistically there has to be. Right? I've never
statistically they are there.
Yeah. Maybe they're abiding by the COVID isolation protocols. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, I'm glad to see that she has resigned. I think that once again, I really do just believe that when you start promoting anti-Americanism like that, I think anyway, I get frustrated with anybody promoting anti-Americanism like that. And once again, she has every right to. She has every right to feel the way she feels about the American flag. And guess what? When you do that publicly, then you are going to have other people who also have a right to express how they feel about your opinion publicly. Yes. So if you don't want the criticism, then, don't put your personal feelings out there for all the public to see if you don't want the public to respond.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I do not support threatening individuals. Now, having said that, I don't believe that she was threatened.
Yeah. No, listen, I got just 2 words for her. Well, bye. That's it. That's it. Yeah,
let's move on to the parting shot.
Parting shot. Let's take our parting shot, shall we?
Mm-hmm. We're going to take our parting shot at the Obama Rona party. So the next time they tell you to stay home and mask up, simply show them this picture of Obama's Rona party.
When I look around that group, Craig, I can't help but think how sophisticated they all look.
They do look incredibly sophisticated, don't they?
That's a sophisticated group right there. They look so sophisticated that they could dodge airborne particles of a coronavirus. They just, I'm too sophisticated for you.
Once again, and I will state it again, they're simply following the science. If you've been vaccinated, if you're young. Now, once again, I'm just saying I'm not arguing the point. I'm just saying I'm following their information, their science. What they say is if you've been vaccinated, then you're good. If in this case, if they're all vaccinated, then they're spreading the virus around to other vaccinated people.
Listen, follow the science, right? I think Thanos was following the science too when he said
Yeah.
we were overcrowded. We need to get rid of people. So, you go there. At least he's social distanced, right? So.
Well, yeah. Okay. Enough said, Mikey. Enough said. All right, folks. Well, hey, that's going to be it for this edition of The Rundown. Well, now, tomorrow is Thirsty Thursday, but guess what comes after Thirsty Thursday?
Freed Back Friday. Freed Back Friday.
Yep.
That'll actually be our 99th edition of this show, by the way.
Yes, and we are going to party like it's episode 99.
Like it's episode 99.
Yes, we are. Man, I can't believe we've done that many episodes so far. Well,
I know,
not yet, but eventually, yeah.
Yeah. We were already up to like 17 viewers also, so it's awesome.
Anyway, folks, make sure you guys tune in. Now, remember, Feedback Friday is where we give you free stuff if you're the commenter of the day. But the only way you can do that is you got to make sure you're watching us on The Rundown on YouTube, which you'll find at therundown.us. Or you can find us on Facebook. Just look up 2A News Rundown, and you'll find us on there as well. You got to comment there. It doesn't matter where else you're watching us, but if you comment there, then you will have an opportunity to win.
Yes, you will. Like, share, subscribe. Like, share, subscribe. We'll see you on Feedback Friday. And enjoy the rest of your hump day.
Hump day.